All right, so welcome back to the OneClass channel. Again, my name is Joey. I'm going to be your math educator, math teacher for today. Again, previously we streamed in the past hour. What we did was kind of grade 9 and grade 9 geometry and algebra questions. What we're going to do now, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to grade 10 math. So a lot of problems with dealing with quadratic equations, problems dealing with grade 10 math, and specifically basically in the later algebra 1 and algebra 2 kind of problems here. So again, here at OneClass, if you're tuning in for the first time, thank you so much for watching. What we're doing here at OneClass is we're providing and answering and verifying solutions for math and chemistry problems, specifically in the secondary school level and also in the university level as well. Again, my name is Joey. I come from a background of being a secondary school educator, so I teach chemistry and music, and hopefully I'm planning to get my math teachable somewhere down the road in September as well. So without further ado, let's get started on these problems here. So we have 10 problems again for today, just in the hour. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with here number one. Number one says that what is the first step in when rewriting y equals negative 4x squared plus 2x minus 7 in the form, and then you have y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, and then find the value of a. So this is the concept of, we have a quadratic equation in standard form. So this is y equals negative 4x squared plus 2x minus 7. So we have this quadratic equation here. And what we're going to do, we have to rewrite it into the form, into a vertex form, right? So we have, this is a standard form. And what we want is we want the vertex form, right? And the vertex form obviously shows us where the vertexes of the parabola. So this is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So this here shows us standard form doesn't really show us much about the parabola here, the quadratic equation, but the vertex form shows us where the vertex is. So in order for us to go from here to here, what we have to do is we have to do something called completing the square. So we complete the square. And how do we do that? Well, I'll show you. So completing the square. So let's complete the square for this question. So we have y equals, we have negative 4x squared plus 2x minus 7. So what we're going to have what we have to do first is, in order for us to complete the square, we have to make a perfect square trinomial. And in doing by doing that first, we have to actually get rid of this a value here, this negative 4. So in order for us to do that, we're going to factor out negative 4 from our problem here. So we're going to take out negative 4 here. So we're left with x squared, and then we're left with we're going to take out negative 4. So we have a minus sign here. And this is going to be x over 2. Or half x, you can say, x over 2 or half x. Maybe I'll just write half x for you here, and then minus 7 here. And we're taking the minus 7 out of the brackets here, because we're only factoring we're only common factoring the first two terms here. So we're taking out that. So now we have our a value here. What happens next is we have to complete the square. So we have negative 4, we have x squared minus half x. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this b term, so this half term, we're going to first double our b term here. So half times 2 here is 1, and then we're going to square this term. 1 squared will equal 1. And we're going to say it's plus 1 and minus 1 here, just to make our perfect square trinomial. So plus 1, and minus 7 here. So this here is my perfect square trinomial, like so. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take out negative 1 here. We're going to take out negative 1 by multiplying by negative 4. So I'm going to have, this is negative 4 x squared minus half x, half x plus 1. And we take out negative 1 times negative 4 will give me positive 4 minus 7. And then finally, what I have here in the brackets here is I have a perfect square trinomial, and this will give us the terms. We have what we have here in the bracket is negative 1 squared minus half squared. Or hold up, give me a second, sorry. So we have 1, negative half, and negative 1 here. Half times 2 is 1. Or sorry, negative half is actually, I think I screwed up here. Negative half times 2 is negative 1 squared. That is still 1 here. So hold up. Give me a second here. Let me think. for x squared minus half x plus 1. This here would go to, I'm dividing it. Oh no, I'm dividing it by 2, not multiplying by 2. So sorry, I messed up my completing the square here. So it's half actually divided by 2. So half, I'm going to divide this number by 2 and then squaring it. So I think I multiplied instead. So let me redo this problem here. Half divided by 2 here is 1/4, and then I'm going to square this term here, which equals 1/16. So this here is my, I'm going to plus 1/16 minus 1/16 minus 7. That looks more like it here. Sorry about that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this negative 1/16 here by multiplying it by the -4. So multiply by positive 1/4 minus 7. So this entire equation will get me, so I have -4 here, and this here is a perfect square trinomial. I have this is simply x minus 1/4 squared, and then whatever 1/4 minus 7 here is, and I'm going to just quickly do that on my calculator. Half minus 7, 1/4 minus 7 here is minus 24/4. So this here is my vertex form of this guy here, and it follows the form of, remember it's y equals a x minus h squared plus k. So therefore a here is -4. Therefore a here equals -4. And that's our value of a. And this is here is our vertex form. Remember our vertex here is simply this is the x value and the y value. So our vertex here is 1/4 and -27/4 is our vertex here. So this here is our correct solution with -4. So let me see what they wrote here. Since the given equation is 4x squared plus 2x minus 7, that's good. So we take out -4 like we did from the first step. So we have x squared minus x over 2. That's good. So that's what we did. That was our first step here. And then what they did was they completed the square, I believe, and they would have gotten minus x 1/4, yeah, minus 1/4 here squared plus 1/4 minus 7. That's what we did here, and they simplified to this here, which is exactly the same thing as I got here. So therefore our value of a is -4. So this solution here is correct. Solution is correct. But they didn't really write down in terms of, they didn't write down how to complete the square. So steps are missing in order to complete the square. Let me say solution is correct though. Oh, it says something went wrong. Oh, weird. Sorry, just give me a second here. You can't move on to the next question, so give me a second. Weird. Okay, give me a second here. Sorry about this. Let me try refreshing the page. Okay, let me see. Okay, let me try this again here. Say solution is correct. However, did not show completing the square. Weird. I can't move on to the next question. This is very, very odd here. So sorry about that. Let me see if I can reselect the question. So just give me a second here. Yeah, unfortunately I can't move on to the next question. I might have to just reselect all the problems. So just give me a second. I'm gonna have to do this here. I would have to manually do this again. So sorry about that. I'm gonna have to manually select these questions. So that might take me a while. Just give me a second here, and hopefully this will work again. Yeah, so I actually can't, I can't actually look at the solutions here. Okay, I can select one of these problems. So maybe I'll select this one here first. So sorry, just give me a second here. Okay, weird. So I actually can't access any of my problems here, which is kind of odd. Something must have gone wrong here. So let me see if I can start this stream. Okay, so I think I can only do this problem here, which is very, very odd. I have a new problem here, but I couldn't verify the solution for the other one because it simply just disappeared off my in the portal here. So I'm gonna actually have to contact someone. So just give me a second, and then we'll finish with the solution here, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna move on to this problem. So find out the solution here. So just give me a second here while I let people know. Okay, so let's move on from this question. We finished number 1, so let me just move on to number 2 here. I only have one question here, low queued up, so I might have to reselect my problems, which will be kind of unfortunate here, and that might take me some time. But let's work with what we have first. So I have here x squared minus 19x plus 1, and we have to figure out what is the solution of this equation, right? So how would we find out the solution of this problem here? So the first step, what we can do is we can find out if this is factorable, right? So let's figure out if this is factorable. So we have, it's going to be a product of a and c, right? So a here is 1 times 1 here is 1. So product is 1, has a sum to negative 19. In this case, none of my products, again, 1 times 1 is just 1, right? It will never sum to negative 19 here. So if it's not factorable, it means that I have to use the quadratic formula. So if you recall, quadratic formula equals, this is x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then what we're going to do is we're going to simply just sub in these numbers here, right? We have here, this is our a value is our 1, b, and c, right? So what we can do is negative b is negative 19. So negative 19 means it's positive 19. So 19 plus or minus b squared is negative 19 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c here is 1, right? All over 2 times 1, right? Which is our a value here. So now this will give us, let's see, 19 plus or minus. So I'm going to simplify the stuff in the brackets first, or sorry, in the square root here. So 19 squared, give me a second, would be, or negative 19 squared would be 361. Minus 4 times 1 is simply just 4, all over 2. 2 times 1 here is 2, right? So that's okay. And then what we can do is 361 minus 4 would be 357. So this would simplify to 19 plus or minus square root of 357 all over 2. And now what we can do is we can split up this x into 2 parts, right? We have x1, would equal 19 plus square root of 357 over 2, and then x2 would equal 19 minus 357 over 2. So let me solve for x1 first. So this would be 19 plus the square root of 357 over 2, which will give us a approximate value of, this is 18.95 is what I got here. Again, I can't really simplify this radically here any further. It's just going to give me 18.95. So I'm just going to give you a decimal in this case. And then I have 19 minus 357 divided by 2. And then I'm going to get something like 0.0528. And these two would be my answers for this problem. 18.95 and 0.0528 would be my solutions for this problem. And again, so what they did was, again, they also used quadratic formula or quadratic equation to solve for these problems here. And what they did was, so they solve this problem here. So it says they use also x equals negative b plus or minus the square b squared minus 4c all over 2a. That's great. So now they just subbed in their kind of questions here. So they have negative 19 plus or minus. Is this positive 19? Oh, I wrote the question wrong. Oh, I'm so sorry here. So I thought it was x squared equals, oh, it's x squared equals 19x. So sorry about that. Let me, give me a second here. I'll have to actually rearrange this formula here because I thought that was a positive sign, so that's my fault. So it's actually x squared equals 19x plus 1. So I actually have to move stuff to the other side here, or I can move x, I have to move this to the other side to equal 0. So x squared would equal, or would be negative 19x minus 1. Here would be my equation here. So therefore, this here is a negative 19 here, and then this would be negative 1 here for my c value, which would change basically this number here. This would be, it would be now plus 4 here, right? So this would be plus 4. So 365. So this is a square root of, would be 365, I believe. Yeah, 365. This would be the square root of 365, which means this one here is also 365. This one's 365 as well. 365 as well. And then finally, the decimals are going to change, right? So let me just give you a decimal for this one here. But these two are my solutions here. So this is 19 plus root 365 over 2. So this net value would be 19.05. And this one here would be 19 minus root 365, which would be negative 0.0525 here. So these two will be my solutions. So this solution here is correct. Negative 19 and positive 19. This is negative and this is negative here. Or give me a second. I don't know if I've actually plugged it in right. Sorry, this is not a decimal. I don't think this is the decimal here. I don't think I plugged in the negative. It's my bad. Lots of errors here today. So this is 0.05. So the first one here is correct. This is 0.05. 0525. And then this one, the second one, would be negative 19 minus minus 365, which would be negative 19.05. So that here is my correct answer for the solution. So this solution is correct, and yeah, the solution here is correct. So I'm going to say great solution and analysis. So I'm just going to see if the solution is correct and see if I can. Okay, so I can confirm that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I would have to do, okay, so sorry, just give me a second. This changes a little bit of what we're doing here. So this was, find the equation. Okay, so this one here is good. So let me, give me a second here. And then 422709. So sorry, just give me a second. And we did. So we did this one as well. Sorry for the technical difficulty, folks. It's just something's wrong with the portal here, so I have to redo everything that I would usually do pre-stream. Okay, so I can confirm these two. Okay, sweet. So let me just see if I can grab more problems for me to do for this stream. So I did these two. So I can't do this one for some reason. 5-3. Can't do that one as well. So just give me a second. Let's see if we can do these guys here. Nope. 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 Okay, so it seems that none of the questions that I kind of submitted in can now be searched. So this is very odd here. So I'm gonna have to actually just come up with brand new questions for you. So just give me a second. I might have to just go through the sheet and just do those. Basically pick any problem and kind of just do it. I usually pick, how I kind of think about this is I usually pick solutions or questions that pertain to a similar grade. However, because something's wrong with the system here, I would have to kind of just basically see if I can kind of do basically any problem at this point. So that's okay. It might not be the most fun, but it's okay. I'll just see if I can queue up maybe like 5 more questions for us to do for today because of the technical difficulties. 866. So I queued up 3. This will be 4. This will be 5. Maybe let's see if we can do 6 here. Yeah, let's try for 6 questions in the span of a bit. So let me just click finish here, and let me see if I can bring those up again, and hopefully I don't get that error anymore. So just give me a second. Okay. So let's do this problem here. This is a grade 12 problem. So I said I was going to do grade 10 problems, but because of the technical difficulties, again, I have to just basically pick any question at this point. So sorry about that. But again, if I guess for those of you tuning in, again, what you can do is if you we can actually either look ahead and look at, and I'll explain what I'm doing in terms of these concepts, or if you're actually in grade 11, grade 12, and you're tuning in, you somehow found yourself in the stream, that's totally fine as well. So totally fine. Let me just look at this question here. This question, I guess this would be question 1 again, because I picked 6 questions here. So it says, according to the fundamental theorem of algebra, which polynomial function has exactly 8 roots? So I'm going to have, I think I did something similar to this problem, like on Thursday, I want to say, but this looks very, very similar. So I need 8 roots. So my first problem here is I have 8x cubed minus 5x squared minus 6 times 7, 6x to the power of 5 minus 2. So let's solve them all each. So I have this one here. What I can do is I can simply just I can multiply this term by this term to get basically what my highest order of polynomial is. So if I'm multiplying exponents, I can simply just add, right? So 8 times 7 here is 56, and 3 plus 5 here is simply 8. So my highest polynomial has 8 roots, which means this solution, this option here is correct. Let me prove to you that the other ones are wrong first. So this is 15x cubed plus 4x plus 1 to the power of 5. Again, for this one here, I have 15x cubed, and then it's to the power of 5, right? So if I have to the power of 5, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the exponents here. So I have 15 to the power of 5, which is quite a big number. Let me just check that. That's whatever, 7759375. And this is x to the power of 15 here. X to the power of 15 does not have exactly 8 roots, which means the solution here is wrong. Let's look at C. This is x squared plus 13 to the power of 6. Again, I can simply just multiply my exponents because it's exponent to an exponent, right? So this here is x to the power of 12. This solution here is also wrong because it doesn't have, I need the polynomial to be exactly 8 roots, right? And then finally, I have 7x to the power of 7 minus 5x to the power of 5 plus 3x cubed times 2x squared plus x. And then simply I can multiply the first term by the first term here. So 7 times 2 is 14, and then x to the power of 7 times x to the power squared. I can add the exponents to get 9 here. The polynomial is 9, not 8, which means this option is also wrong here. So A here is my correct solution in this problem. So let me just see if they got this question right. So they did. Option A is the correct answer. So any polynomial of degree n has exactly n roots counting multiplicity. That's good. So we have, so 8x squared times 7x to the power of 5 is 56x to the power of 8. That's good. B here, it says I have exactly 15 roots, right? So I have x to the power of 15 here. So I have exactly 15 roots. C here has 12 roots because I said that x squared to the power of 6 is x to the power of 12. And then finally, 7x to the power of 7 times 2x squared would give me 14x to the 9, and they said 9 roots counting multiplicity. So the solution here is correct. Correct. Good analysis. Solution is correct. Hopefully, okay, awesome. So we're back in business here. So we can do probably 6 questions for today. Just for this, hopefully 6 questions for the sake of time. So just give me a second here. All right, number 2. So which equation represents an exponent that passes through the point 236? So I need the point, it has to pass through the point 236, and I'm given these equations. So let's look at A here. A here says y equals 2 times 4 to the power of x. So basically what we can do for these problems, we can just sub in this point, right? We can sub in these 2 points to figure out if the solution satisfies itself. So x and y here. So y here would be 36 equals 2 times 4 to the power of 2, right? In this case, we have 36 equals 4 squared here is 16. I have 36 equals 32 here. So this, in this case, A here is the wrong answer. It does not satisfy this problem here. So let's look at B. So for B, I have 4 times 2 to the power of x. Or sorry, I have y equals 4 times 2 to the power of x. Let me just make some room here. Again, my points are 2 and 36, right? So it would be 36 as my y value, and 2 would be my x value. I have here 36 equals 4 times 2 squared is 4. 36 equals 16. This here is also wrong. I need 36 equals 36, right? So this is wrong. Let me look at C here. I have 3 times, or sorry, I have y equals 3 times 4 to the power of x. Again, this is y is 36 equals 3 times 4 squared. 36 equals 3 times 16. In this case, 36 equals 16 times 3 here is 48. This here is also wrong, which means D has to be my correct answer here, right? So let me just verify that for you. I'll do some blue. D here states that y equals 4 times 3 to the power of x. I know that y here is 36 times 4, 3 squared here. 36 equals 4. 3 squared here is 9, and obviously 4 times 9 here is 36. So D here is my correct answer. It satisfies this exponential function that passes through 2 and 36. So basically option D is the correct answer. If the point lies on the curve, so it must satisfy the equation of the curve. That's good. False. So A is false, hence 236 does not satisfy. It does not satisfy. Okay. So basically, they just plugged in these equations here to basically solve for it, and they just said that D here is true because x equals 2 gives y equals 36. So solution is correct. But they didn't really show their work. Like I get how they tried to explain it, but they didn't really show their work per se. So I would say that solution is correct, but you can maybe show like a sample, solution, a step-by-step solution to figure out if x equals to figure out which equation satisfies x equals 2 would give you y equals 36. Solution here is correct. Okay, that's number 2. Let's do number 3 here. So number here is is a geometry question. So number 3 states that EFGH is a rhombus, and given that EG is 16 and FH is 12, what is the length of one side of the rhombus? So let me just draw this out. Let me draw this out like this. So we have a rhombus. This looks oddly like a rectangle, but let me try to draw the rhombus like for what it is. So a rhombus here, something like that, and given this is E, so I'm gonna say E, F, G, and H, and EF here is 16 units, right? EF, E to F is 16 units, and F to H is 12, right? So this is here 16 units, and F to H would be 12, right? So from here to here is 12. What is the length of one side of the rhombus? So what they have here is they drew out the rhombus here, and they drew these diagonals are bisecting each other at right angles, right? So this is good. So basically they drew from E to G, they drew something like this, and this all gives us they all give right angles here, right? So that's perfectly fine. So you have right angles here. And you can say this is a point A, or you can say it equals 12, right? So now you have a triangle that has you have a triangle here, and what they're saying is they're asking what is the length of the one side of the rhombus, right? So if you have a triangle here, and you have the length of one side, what you can do is you have an angle at A here is 90 degrees. F of A is simply half of 12, right? So this here, I'll write in blue, is simply just 6 here. And what we have here is a right triangle, right? Because if I drew this out, if I were to draw this out again, I would have something like this. A right triangle here, this here is the angle, this here is 6, and this here is an angle here. And is, sorry, EG, or is it EF? Oh, EG is 16, sorry. I was going to say I'm missing an unknown here. EG is 16. Therefore, half of 16, this side is 8, right? So I can say this side is 8 here. And then it's asking what is the side of this length of the rhombus, right? So if I have a right triangle here, I can simply just use Pythagorean theorem to figure out what this x here, right? Or let's say what this C here is. This is C and this is C here. So remember, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. For Pythagorean theorem, C squared equals, this is now 6 squared plus 8 squared. This is 36 plus 64. C squared equals 100. For square root both sides, I would get C equals 10. So this, in this case, the length of one side is equal to 10. So this here is my correct answer. So that's good. So again, it's plus or minus 10, but again, I can't take the negative length, right? So this here is my correct answer. Length of one side equals 10, and they got the same answer as well. Length equals 10, and they did the exact same thing as I did here. I didn't realize, I thought it was EF and not EG, so I wrote 16 as here when it was 16 as the diagonal. So that's my fault, sorry. So this here is great solution and analysis. Solution here is correct. So this here was question 3. We have question 4 now. It's asking how do we simplify a square root of 30? So how do we simplify? I'm just going to write here square root of 30. So again, what we're doing here is a square root of 30, right? And again, what we can do is we can simply just take the factors, like we said in my previous video, right? So again, I know 30 is my even number, is an even number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this would equal root 2 times whatever 30 divided by 2 is, which is root 15. So these two radicals make up root 30, obviously. And now, because it's an even number, I can't simplify this even more. So what I could do is I could take, again, 3 as my factor, because 3 is also a factor of 15. So I could take this out, and I would get something like this. 15 divided by here is 5. And again, I can't take out more numbers here. So this here, I guess, if you really want to rewrite this, this would be root 2 times root 3 times root 5. Or you can say it's root 2, root 3, root 5. But in reality, we simply just use the root 30 as our solution here. We don't really care. We only use basically one radical here, and this doesn't really help us in terms of simplifying this radical. It actually makes it more complicated. So this here is just root 30, right? None of the factors here, root 30 is a perfect square. So in this case, you got the exact same thing, root 2 times root 3 times root 5, which equals root 30 here. So this solution, again, is correct. Solution is correct. We cannot simplify square root 30 to an integer multiplied by a radical. So therefore, that solution is correct here. This is the most simplified form here, but this simplified form is actually more complex than just simply root 30. So we actually, in reality, just leave it as root 30 here. So that's number 4. And then root 5, how do you find the square root of 36? So there's actually even a more simpler problem here. This is root 36. Again, if I want to find the square root of 36, if I didn't know my my solutions here, I actually know that this here equals 6 because I know that 6 squared equals 36. So basically, I can just solve this by inspection, but if you didn't know that 6 squared equals 36, I could, again, use the exact same logic and break 36 down, right? I can simply break this down. I can divide it by 2. So this would be root 2 times root 36 divided by 2 is 18. I can do it another time and simply get 2 times, I'm going to divide it again. I have root 2 divided by root 2. 18 divided by 2 would give me 9, root 9. And then I have root 2 times root 2, which simply equals 2 times root 9 here. And then root 9, I can actually divide that into, it's divisible by 3, right? So I have root 3 times, or I have here times root 3 times root 9 here. Again, 9 divided by 3 here is again 3, so root 3 times root 3. This here, root 3 times root 3, obviously simplifies to 3. So 2 times 3 here equals 6. So this here is a complex way of solving root 36. But in reality, we know that our perfect squares, we know that 6 squared equals 36. Therefore, the square root of 36 has to equal 6. So this solution is 6 here. So this solution is correct. Solution is correct. Good analysis. That was question 5. And finally, we're going to do a question 6 here. And I believe this would be, I only loaded up 6 questions. So I might have to load up more because we actually have excess time here, which is great. Just because of the technical difficulty, I thought we could only finish 6 problems here. But maybe squeeze in like 1 or 2 more depending on how we're feeling here. So this is find the simple interest. So this is find the simple interest accrued on 7,500 at 6% of 90 days. So this here is a financial math problem. This is a grade 11 financial problem here. So first we have to figure out, if we don't know the formulas for simple interest, what would usually happen is that we would actually give you a formula we would give you a formula on the test basically. So you don't have to actually memorize these guys here. But if I want to say the simple interest formula, there's simply A, which is the final amount, equals the principal times 1 plus R over T, where R is the rate here and time is in years, right? So this here would be my simple interest formula here. So A is the final amount, which is what we're solving for. Principal is 7,500 times 1 plus the rate here is 6%. So I have to change that to a decimal. So this would be 0.06 times time, right? Time is in years, but however, I only have 90 days, right? So I have to simply just say this would be 90 divided by 365 here, because this is a fraction of a year, right? So this would all equal 7,500 times 1 plus, and then whatever is 0.06 times 90 divided by 365 Let me do that for you here. This will give me 1 plus, this is 0.01479. And then if I plug that into my calculator, I would get times 7,500. I would get a total of $7,610.96. But however, this is just simply the final amount. What I would do is it's only asking for this simple interest, right? So again, I would have to do this in blue. I'm doing interest would equal simply just the final amount minus the principal, right? So I have the final amount, which is $7,610.96, minus what I put in initially, which is $7,500. This would then give me just the interest number, which is $110.96. So this here is the interest accrued on $7,500 at 6% in 90 days. So this here is my correct solution. As you can see, $110.96 is also the correct solution here. So what they wrote is, simple interest is the principal times the rate times the time divided by 100. So they did, so 7,500 times 6% divided by 100, obviously, because it's a rate here, times 90 divided by 365. So exactly the same formula as I did here. And they simplified it using a calculator, and they got $110.96. So this is a great solution and analysis. So it's 12:42. Maybe I'll load up like maybe 2 more questions for you before we finish off for today. Maybe 2 or 3. I'll see if we can do 3 problems. So just give me a second while I do that. Let me select these problems here. I'm going to do, hopefully, 3 more. That's 1. That's 2. And that would be 3. And let me bring this up for you folks to see here. Sweet. Okay, let me just bring up 3 more questions, and hopefully that will answer our questions for there. So again, this is, I guess we're back to question 1 now here. Say this is question 1. So it says, which function represents the reflection of f of x equals 4x across the y-axis? So I have the function f of x equals 4x, and I want a reflection across y-axis. So it's basically asking us what can I do to this function to reflect it across the y-axis, right? So if you recall from transformations of functions, what we have here is I have f of x equals, I have basically plus or minus a times x times x minus b, and then actually this would be b times c, this is bx minus c plus d, where basically, or this is also plus or minus here, but where this is plus or minus here just means this is a reflection across the y-axis for let me just write this down here. Actually, this is a reflect on y-axis. The a here is a vertical stretch or compression or expansion. You could also say stretch or compression. The b here is a reflection along the x-axis here. That's plus or minus. The b here represents the horizontal stretch or compression. The c here represents a horizontal shift. And then finally, the d here represents a vertical shift. So what we care about is we care about the reflection across the y-axis, right? So if we care about the reflection along the y-axis, we care about this term here. So this plus or minus refers to the reflection along the y-axis. So if I were to pick if you want to reflect across the y-axis, I would simply have to say g of x would have to equal, I want to stick a negative here, 4x here. In this case, which is basically this one here, negative 4x here would be a reflection along the y-axis. So option D here is the correct answer. We have the function y equals 4x. So basically what they did is they actually graphed it as well, right? So if you graph it as well, I can show you that this equals the correct answer here. So y equals 4x could look something like this. If I reflect it along the this is the y-axis here, you would get something like this, right? You get a negative slope, right? Y equals negative 4x is simply a negative is aligned with a negative slope. So this here is so option D is correct, and they graphed it out like so. This here is the correct solution. So great solution and analysis. I like how they use the graph to support their answer here. So this solution here is correct. That's question 1. Question 2 is, again, these are pretty basic questions here. It says how to convert 0.01 into a fraction and a percent. So I'm converting 0.01 into fraction and percent. So 0.01, let me do it into a fraction first. So let me do a percent first, actually, because this is probably easier for you. So 0.01 is my decimal. If I want to convert it to a percent, I would have to multiply it by 100%, right? So multiply by 100%. So this here, my decimal was here, 1, 2. So this would be 1% here. So 1% here would be my percentage. And obviously, if I want to convert percentages back into a fraction, I would simply have to do 1%. I have to divide it by 100% here to get me a fraction. So I simply have 1 over 100. So these two are my correct answers. This here. So I have 1% is 0.01 converted into a fraction or into a percent here, and then into a fraction, I would simply have to divide it by 100, right? 0.01 divided by 100. Because it's in the 100th place here, so it's 1 divided by 100. So this is my fraction. So I have 1% here, which is good, and 1 over 100, which is awesome as well. So this here is my correct solution and analysis here. So say solution is correct. And then finally, my last question of the day. This is question 3, and we'll end the video here. Sorry for the technical difficulties again. I don't know what happened with the system here, but I think I answered actually 10 problems, which is nice. So it says solve the inequality. So I have here, this is 2 times 4 plus 2x is greater or equal to 5x plus 5 here, right? So again, what we're gonna have to do first is what I would do is I would do distributive property first. I would distribute this 2 into here and this 2 into here, right? So 2 times 4 here equals 8. 2 times 2x here equals 4x. So I would get something like this. And then what I would do is I would do the same thing. I would collect like terms, right? So I see here that I have 4x here and 5x here, so I'm collecting like terms. With the variables here, and I have a constant term and a constant term here. So if I want to move x's to the left side, so let's move 4x to the side. So I have 4x minus 5x. I'm subtracting 5x from both sides is greater or equal to, and then I have 5 here. I'm going to move the 8 to the other side, so it's a negative 8. So therefore, I have 4 minus 5 is simply just negative 1x, or negative x is greater or equal to 5 minus 8 here is negative 3. I can simply just divide both sides by negative 1, so these negatives cancel out. I get x here is greater or equal to positive 3, and this here is my solution for my inequality. So this here is correct. Again, what they did was they did distributive property as well. They have 8 plus 4x, which is good, is greater or equal to 5x plus 5. And what they did was they're creating like terms here, and what they're doing is oh, actually, hold up. If I'm dividing by negative 1 here, it flips my sign. So I actually messed up here. So this is actually the trick that a lot of students, and even I fell into this trap here. Every time here, if I divide by negative number for an inequality, the sign switches. sign swaps. So I made that mistake here. So this is actually, it's going to be less than or equal to 3. So this here is my correct solution. Yeah, this here is correct solution. So this here is correct here. So it's greater, it's less than or equal to 3. So this here, and they even did a number line, which is awesome. So I can say here, this is a great solution and analysis. So again, for inequalities, I fell into the trap here again. I'm negative x is greater than or equal to x here. If I'm dividing both sides by -1, I'm dividing by a negative number. So in this case, this sign swaps to this sign here. So the greater than or equal to swaps to the less than or equal to. So in this case, x is less than or equal to 3. That here is my solution for this problem here. So again, sorry for about the technical difficulties. I did end up finishing 10 problems for this hour, but it was very, very divided and kind of scattered in terms of the curriculum here. I did kind of problems from grade 9, which in the grade 10 with the inequalities, grade 11 with exponential functions, and the grade 12 with kind of advanced functions with in terms of multiplicity. So I'm sorry for that. I'm going to see if I can get that sorted out for the next stream. For the next math stream would be on Friday. Again, if you're watching for the first time, again, thank you for tuning in, or if you've been watching for a while, thank you for tuning in. Again, I stream on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for math, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays for chemistry. So again, if you're interested, again, definitely stick around for that. As always, again, stay safe, stay healthy, keep learning, and have a great day. Take care.